We are joined by our very, very special guest, Baroness Brady of Knightsbridge, also known Karren Brady, West Ham Vice Chair, who must have woken up this morning and thought, oh no, I can't believe I've offered to go on talkSPORT or agreed to go on talkSPORT this morning. You must have felt like keeping your head under the pillow after yesterday.
Well, I wish yesterday could start all over again. I mean, it's so tough to take. It's never easy for the supporters, the players, the manager for a 3-0, particularly the opening game of the season. But look, I spent a lot of time with the manager and the squad in America on the pre-season tour, and the spirit amongst them is fantastic. And I know that they'll be more disappointed, that they'll be the most disappointed people this morning. And I know we'll see a reaction, and I'll know they want to turn it around, and they want to turn it around quickly.
I remember you telling me you were going on the tour this summer, and you maybe haven't done that before with West Ham. I don't know, but what do you learn going off on a tour like that? And why, if you like, why did you? Were you checking up to see how things are?
No, it was the Premier League Summer Series, and it's a really important part of being involved in the Premier League to actually go and talk to our broadcasters, talk to our sponsors in America. Our biggest support base outside the United Kingdom for the club is in America. So being out there, seeing how different people operate, getting to meet people, taking the club to, out there was a really important part. And what you learn about the dynamics of the team, the makeup, the spirit, the togetherness, the harmony amongst the team. I've never seen it as good as that before, and I was really thoroughly impressed. And the pre-season tour was so well organised. It was brilliant. So we had a really good time. You've
had a little bit of disruption, which ended up with good news in Lucas Paqueta being cleared of any match-fixing allegations and being reintegrated into the team, knowing that you're going to have him going forward, providing you don't sell him, of course. Did that make sort of preparation difficult in that you didn't actually know whether he would be playing or not?
Look, it's been a really tough time for Lucas. I mean, it's such a serious allegation, and it was, really hanging over him. And the FA were going for a worldwide lifetime ban. So the seriousness of the situation was incredible. He was, from day one when the accusation was made, absolutely resolute in the fact that he had nothing to do with this. And actually, there was no evidence that he had anything to do with it. So it came as a real relief. But we always took the view that we completely believed in him. We stood right the way alongside him throughout the whole scenario. And my advice to the manager and to him was just to carry on until we know any different. And that's exactly what we did.
Could he take legal action? Because it's effectively a restraint of trade. And also on the back of that, do you think that there should be some protocol in place that it doesn't take so long?
Could he take legal action? I don't know. I don't know what his personal situation is. I think initially the pressure of the case, the relief of the result. I think you then think about what next. But the impression on him is immense. I mean, the thing that is very difficult to understand is that the case is all about the balance of probabilities. It's not beyond reasonable doubt, which is a much higher bar. Is it 50-50 likely he did something, just slightly more than 51% likely, and then you're found guilty. So the bar is really low. But the FA didn't prove their case. There really was no evidence against him. And he proved his innocence, and I'm so pleased for him.
But it went on too long?
Well, it was a long case. I mean, it was a long case. Obviously, the football season was in the middle. He had to do it around his games. He had to give evidence himself. I think there were lots of reasons why it took a long time. He would have liked it to have gone much quicker so we could get it out the way. But it's not really in our control on the timings.
There's been a lot of talk about whether he'll stay at West Ham and suggestions even last season that he could have gone even to Manchester City. Can you be sure he's going to stay at West Ham?
I think he wants to stay, and we definitely want him to stay. So the thing is, he'll be staying.
One of the players he did lose was Mohamed Kudus, who played really well for Spurs yesterday and was a very influential player last season. It must have been difficult to lose him.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to lose players that you want to keep. But, the financial restraints and the PSR and all the rules and regulations in football mean that you have to do some trading. That's just the way it is. All clubs are having to do it. You're either restricted on what you can buy because you have to be careful of the financial rules, or you have to sell to try and buy. So that was the decision that was made. He didn't have a particularly good season for West Ham last year by his own standards. So we looked to move on.
Do you sit there sort of in the summer with a calculator with the rest of the board going, well, if we sold him, that will bring in that amount of money, multiplied by that, divide by this? Is it that complicated?
It's getting more complicated. The rules are very precise. You have to be really careful, and you know what the consequences are, as we saw with clubs in the past. The points deduction, nobody wants that. You want to do all your business and earn your points or lose your points on the pitch. You don't want them taken from you. So you have to be really careful. You have to be really mindful, and you have to make sure you abide by the rules.
One of your best players, probably your best player, again, he sort of fought hard yesterday, Jarrod Bowen. Was there, presumably other clubs were sniffing around him?
Well, look, you always talk to the manager about what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. And there's certain players you just don't want to sell. And he would certainly fall in that category. He loves the club. We love him. The supporters love him. He's the kind of guy you can build a team around because he tries so hard all of the time. He's an exceptional player. He's a great captain. He's a pleasure to be around. So no, he's definitely a West Ham player.
His father-in-law is probably fairly useful.
Yeah, 100%.
We talked about players who are established like Jarrod Bowen. You also brought in a new goalkeeper who Henry seemed to be punting every week for somewhere to get a move in the.
It's a news story.
I know, but you're working hard on getting him a transfer. What was the reasoning, do you think, behind bringing in another keeper to challenge your established ones?
Well, look, the manager makes a decision about the players that he wants and the positions that he needs, and he felt that he needed to freshen up that area and bring in a new player. So that's exactly what we did. We bought the player that he wanted, and he's a new addition to the team.
In Graham Potter, you have a manager who is described, even by Henry, as a project manager, somebody who builds and works at it. I always think that gives them a slightly free pass, because if you lose a game, you say, well, we're still building, we're still working out how to play. Do you understand what I mean? And has he got that license to have a bit of time to work it all out?
Look, Graham is a forward-thinking manager. He's sort of calm under pressure. He's very detailed in his approach. He's a great manager of players. He builds a special relationship with players, and they understand where he's coming from. And he has a modern mindset. And all of those things mean that it does take some time to put a team together, to get the team playing the way that you want. I mean, West Ham is not a club that panics about its managers. We tend to support people, stick with them and see it through. I really hope he does well. He's a pleasure to work with. He's incredibly professional. And I know the players respect him. I know his relationship with the players is good. I know he'll be sitting down with them today to have a long, hard think about what went wrong yesterday, expecting a reaction and expecting to put it right.
Do you need more pace in midfield?
I think that anyone would know that the answer to that question is yes. And that's what we're working hard on doing.
Of course, it doesn't get any easier. You've got Chelsea next Friday. That's a tough test when you've just gone and lost to a team that everybody expected to struggle. Now you're going in against, well, the world champions.
Yeah, I mean, we've beaten them before, though.
Oh,
I mean, it's on. That's what makes the Premier League so good. The reason that the Premier League is the best league in the world, the most watched, the most beloved, is because it's so competitive. On any given day, any club can beat any other. And it's not always about the money that you spend. It's almost always about that. But sometimes it's about the magic you create, the chances that you get, the opportunities that you get. You take your luck. So I don't think there's any club West Ham should be frightened of. I mean, some clubs have come with a bigger reputation, but we're not frightened of anybody.
You obviously love football. You married a footballer. Can you enjoy games, West Ham games, because of what it means, the result means financially?
Well, I really enjoyed the pre-season games when there's no pressure. It's really different when you're watching a league game. I don't think people really understand. I mean, a lot of people, they look at club directors and they think we're quite remote, or they think we don't care in the way that supporters care. Trust me, we care. Yesterday hurt us as much as it hurt them. We're always thinking about what can we do every day to make the club better. All we want to do is fulfill all our hopes and dreams and expectations our supporters have. We're all supporters of the club. We're thinking all the time, what do we need to do? How do we need to do it? How can we improve? And when you don't get the results that you want, you're thinking about it even harder. And there is a pressure associated with that, but football's only just begun. There's a long way to go. So we still have that expectation. We know this is a good squad. It has a quality about it. And for whatever reason yesterday it didn't click, but it hurts us just as much as it hurts everybody else. But it's our job to go and fix it. We can't sit there and go, oh, well, what are you going to do? We have to say, right, what are we going to do? How are we going to fix it? How are we going to improve things? We know our supporters have huge expectation. We have it ourselves. But clubs that do well are the clubs where everybody sticks together. When things are going good, nobody needs support. It's when things are tough, when things are not going the way that you want, how you support each other, how you lean on each other, how you create a trust circle, an embrace of support. That's so important.
We are with Baroness Karren Brady, the West Ham Vice Chair, who got up this morning and came in despite West Ham getting a 3-0 drubbing at Sunderland. And we're moving on to talk about club ownership. Karren, the setup at West Ham hasn't changed a great deal almost since you were in there. But around you, club ownership is changing all the time. Owners come in with very different agendas. We wonder what the end game is for some of them. You go into a lot of Premier League meetings. You must think, I don't know where we're going sometimes.
Well, I don't necessarily think that. I mean, look, new owners come in, they have new ideas, they bring a fresh approach. They invest in their squads, they do the best they can for their clubs. I've got nothing against there's no owner I can think of in the Premier League that I think, oh, they're a bad owner and I wish they weren't around. I don't feel like that about anybody. I mean, look, this is the best sport in the world. People want to own Premier League football clubs. You have to accept that is the case, and you have to welcome them. And I think it's important that we listen to other people's ideas. Some are not so good, some are okay. But the thing is that we're all trying to do the best for our football clubs. I mean, it's some clubs would have no spending limits at all, where you can spend as much as you like, as often as you like. Some clubs think that there should be an amount you can spend every season. Every club can spend 100 million. You can't spend more, you can't spend less. Some clubs like squad cost ratio. Some clubs like profit and sustainability rules. So the Premier League's job is to try and create a system where it sort of works for everybody, where everyone's just a bit miffed. So if everyone's just a little bit miffed, it sort of works.
I sort of meant that when you get Saudi owners, they're in with a bigger picture, if you like, to develop sport and make Saudi a sporting centre with football and golf and boxing and all that. American owners come in and think, I wonder if eventually we can get away with this relegation thing and forget about that and just have franchises and maybe play games abroad, things like that. And then you have, as I say, yours is almost traditional owners who took over a club, want to win games, see it as an English league, and almost old-fashioned way, if that's
well,
correct.
I think we look. There's fierce rivalry in the Premier League on the pitch. Once that whistle goes, it's fight to the death. But off the pitch, there isn't any rivalry, because a West Ham supporter is not going to wake up tomorrow and support Newcastle or vice versa. So we have to try and work together for the betterment of the league. And the key principles that make the league strong or its competitive nature. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to create a system where the same club wins the league every year, because that is a recipe for disaster.
But you have that with Manchester City. They won it 4
but they get pushed. But they do get pushed every year. It's not a foregone conclusion. They're not handed the title before the season has kicked off. So there is a lot of competition. So that's really important. The fullness of our stadiums, the vibrance of our atmosphere. Those are things that are really important to maintain. And they're the pillars of the success, really. And the relegation and promotion, the hopes, the dreams, the disasters, the disappointments. Those 3 elements are really unique to the Premier League and have to be protected at all costs.
So you don't buy into this perception of a big 6?
Well, what creates the big 6 is the European money, because, if we're all operating under the same financial rules, but my income through being in the Champions League is 300 million more than yours before we even start. And then you add sponsorship, and then you add gate revenue, and then you add corporate hospitality and retail and so on. The gap is hundreds of millions. And that's what creates the big 6. It's the financial clout, not necessarily that they have better teams, but they have more financial clout. So ensuring that gap doesn't grow forever until the point where they're the only ones that can ever win it is really important to keep an eye on.
Would the current owners ever sell of West Ham?
No, I mean, one of our shareholders is looking to sell. Unfortunately, David Gold passed away, and then Jacqueline passed away, and the family are looking, what they should do with their shares, and they're very careful about what they're going to do. But I mean, we're a London club. We have a 67,000 capacity stadium. We would be very sought after. But no, I'm very lucky. I've got good shareholders that believe in the club, that love the game, that want to do the best that they can, and are very much staying.
Well, you are slightly concerned about the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and the column you did in The Sun on Saturday emphasised that, and you just picked out one of the stories we did last week, which was the gap just in kit.
Yeah.
Kit sales. I mean, who was at the top of 100 million?
I think it was Liverpool. And Sunderland at the bottom.
Sunderland was 500,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
99,500,000 pounds gap.
Yeah, and we can talk about what the prize money is in the Premier League and how the higher you get up, you get rewarded. But ultimately, going forward, those sort of things off the pitch make for the big disparity.
That's right. And that's why you have to have a different approach when you're looking at building a squad that can compete. You need to create teams that are hard to beat. You need to create that sense of spirit and morale amongst people. You need to get your supporters behind you. I don't think supporters understand just how important they are in a stadium. My players are always telling me that the supporters make the difference. You should have heard them yesterday at Sunderland, the away ground. We were getting beat, but they never gave up. That support, that constant backing that they give to them, that is what connects the club and the supporters, and you create this momentum that gets hard to stop.
One of the big discussions about ownership has come this week, really. Multi-club ownership, which has affected Crystal Palace, meant they were demoted to the Conference League. Are you a fan of multi-club ownership? Because I'm not sure what it really does for the English game, if you like. Man City have whatever they have, 13, 14 clubs. Many other clubs have tie-ups with others. Is it a good thing?
I don't really understand it myself. I think if you are looking to build, a brand of football and create a number of clubs for financial purposes, I sort of get it. Maybe it's about moving players in between those clubs and feeder clubs. That could also work. But on the face of it, I can't imagine being focused on more than one football club. I mean, all of my energy and my boards, all of our time, all of our focus, all of our dreams, all of our desires are all into one club. When you've got 13 clubs, I would struggle how you would make that work.
Well, what situation would the club have been in, sort of financially, and also in the sort of the pyramid system, if you'd stayed at Upton Park?
Well, the stadium has brought has brought a number of things. One, it's brought 67,000 people, and 35,000 of those are family, so it creates a great atmosphere. Equally, it's given us a platform on which to generate more income, which allows us to go and invest in the squad. I mean, no one at the club takes any money out of the club. It's all about generating everything we can to continually improve ourselves. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been impossible to compete. I mean, you look at Bournemouth, I think they've got a 11,000 capacity. It wouldn't have been impossible, but it certainly would have been harder.
But you're aware there is fans still criticise it, don't they? Who loved Upton Park, and that it's often struck me as a stadium where when it's going well, it's brilliant atmosphere, and when it's not going so well, you can really feel the negativity.
But that's the same in any club, in any stadium, in any part of the world. Every supporter is happier when you're winning than when you're losing, and when you're winning, the atmosphere is great. When you're not winning, it's different.
Where we're in the company of Baroness Karren Brady, the West Ham Vice Chair. We've covered quite a few subjects before, and one we want to get on to now is one that I think frustrates many, many football fans in this country, and it is Man City and their 115/130 charges. What on earth is going on? And as you go to all the high-powered meetings, have you got any insight?
No, I don't. I have no insight at all, except that a decision has to be coming pretty soon, I would have thought. I mean, I have no idea why it's taking so long. I think the accusations are pretty serious. They have the opportunity to defend themselves, and then we'll see what the outcome is.
Does anything ever crop up in Premier League meetings about this? Like somebody puts their hand up and say, can you give us an indication, Mr. Masters, who's the chief executive, about when we'll come to an end in this?
No, they don't, because you wouldn't get an answer anyway. And even if they did, I'd never tell you, because what happens in Premier League meetings stays in Premier League
meetings.
Oh, for the most.
But
anyway.
do you not think, as a general rule, it's something that does take far too long? I mean, potentially, if it went the wrong way, Manchester City's Premier League titles could be expunged. The whole of history of football for the last 10 odd years could be changed. And yet here we are, just sitting, waiting. Any day something might turn up, but it might be a month's time, 6 months, a year. I don't know.
Look, I can imagine how frustrating it is for them not to know what's happening and not know what the outcome is. But I think it's a serious accusation which has to be carefully considered. And that is not something to be rushed. I mean, I think everybody would hope that the right decision comes out for the right reasons. And at some point, we'll all get to see what those reasons are. And then we'll know what the accusation is, what the charges are, and what the defence was and what the outcome was.
Do you think there should be total transparency and we should hear, or do you think a lot of things that come into the public domain will be redacted?
Well, it definitely will be redacted. I think it's impossible to think it will be published completely openly. I think it'll definitely be redacted. I mean, for me, what I would like more than anything else is for this matter to be resolved and for us all to move on. I mean, the legal costs are huge. You're talking tens and tens and tens of millions of pounds that the Premier League clubs, i.e., all of us, are paying. We would like nothing more than it to come to an end, to put it beside us, and for everybody to move on.
How much is it working out? Each club has to put in.
Well, millions. It's millions, and it hasn't finished yet. And obviously, if Man City win, there'll be a huge legal bill that the Premier League has to pick up. So, look, I understand if the accusation is serious. In the same way, I understand what the FA brought the charge against Lucas, and everyone has a right to defend themselves. But during that period of being accused and finding out what the result is, it has been far too long. And I think for all of us, we would like to draw a line under the matter. I'm sure Man City, more than anybody else, would like that to be the case.
I mean, they've even managed to speed up VAR. I mean, surely with something like this, you could actually have a time limit. I
think the most important thing is that you get the correct outcome, whatever that is, as opposed to speed. There's certain things where speed is more important than accuracy, but actually on this case, I think accuracy is more important than speed.
Henry's a big fan of the regulator. I'm a bit on the fence about it. I can see it's important from some points of view, but not with others. But there's nothing a regulator could have done about this. This is the most serious case, if you like, going on in English football, and they couldn't have stepped in.
Well, I would hope not. I mean, a regulator is we remain to be seen what a regulator can bring to the game, but a regulator should not be interfering in the rules of football. And if it does interfere in the rules of football, UEFA will certainly have something to say about that. I mean, UEFA wrote a letter saying that they are very concerned about a regulator because the only person who should have supremacy over the governance of football in England is the FA. Mm-hmm. So if the regulator was getting involved in breaches of rules, that would be a very poor place to be. But I don't think the regulator has any intention of doing that.
No, it's not in their remit. And also UEFA have sort of clarified that. Do you think that we wouldn't need a regulator if the FA was stronger?
Well, the FA is the governing body to uphold the rules and the discipline. They're not involved in the sustainability of football, which is what the regulator's remit's going to be. So I don't think the regulator is thinking, oh, I've got to organise the England team a bit better. I've got to sort out grassroots a bit better. I've got to work out disciplinary cases better. Not thinking any of that. And the FA's remit has nothing to do with the sustainability of football. The breaches of the rules as a result of that, well, that's a matter for the leagues.
What do you think the regulator's for? You seem a bit confused what regulator will give us. So what for the rest
You spoke very strongly in the House of Lords, didn't you?
I did. I think the bill we've ended up with was far better than the one we started with. The theory of a regulator now becomes the practice. So we're going from, a regulator to here is the regulator. And we have to ensure that the regulator is light touch, that it doesn't affect the growth of football, that it doesn't disrupt the competitive balance of football, because that would be a mistake. It should stay out of the way that are clubs that are well run, and it should step in only when required to do so. I'm worried about a lot of red tape that becomes involved in, for clubs, not clubs in the Premier League that are well resourced, but clubs as you go down the leagues who have to provide so much information. I mean, in the National League, most of them are run on volunteers. They don't have armies of accountants to provide. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a certain nervousness amongst, how light touch this regulator is going to be. But if it helps create better owners and better outcomes for the way clubs are run, then that would be a good thing.
Where are you with the sort of the long-delayed new deal with the EFL?
Well, look, the EFL were recently offered a deal by the Premier League. I know because I was selected as one of the people to put that deal to them, and the EFL turned it down. I mean, that would have saved a lot of football clubs in the EFL that are currently having situations. And what the EFL board, who didn't share this deal with their clubs, what the EFL board came back with was we want a 75-25% split of the revenue, but we also want a reunification. So they want the Premier League and the EFL to become one again. That's the first time that was ever mentioned to us, but that's what they wrote to us. And they said, we want a 75-25% split of the revenue, and we want a reunification of all the leagues. Take it or leave it, frankly.
But surely that means the end of the EFL, because the Premier League would just take over then.
Well, it would mean an expansion and a reunification, which means all the clubs are back together. I mean, the Premier League is a very specific, it generates all of the revenue that props up the entire football pyramid, and it does that because it's special. It doesn't do that by having 92 teams in it. It's a different scenario, and the reason the Premier League broke away in the first place is that the ambitions and interests of Liverpool are very different to those at Carlisle at the other end of the table. So it doesn't go anywhere. These conversations don't go anywhere. But the EFL say they need the money, but they actually don't want the money because they were offered the money and they turned it down.
Would you have a PL2?
It'd have to be a very strong reason for having it. What I don't want to happen is that you create these top six clubs you were talking about earlier, and then a washing machine of other clubs just come and go who can't really ever, their supporters could never hope to win the Premier League. They're just interchangeable and they just make up the numbers. That I would definitely not want to see.
What could you do to help clubs, the likes of, let's face it, a big club like Sheffield Wednesday, who were once part of the elite of English football, smaller clubs like Morecambe, who could go out of business, we were talking earlier about a regulator. Now, the regulator probably wouldn't have opposed the ownership of either of those two clubs when they came in. Is there anything the game can do to make it more secure for clubs like that?
Well, I think that obviously the Premier League funds the entire pyramid, but we don't tell the clubs what to do with the money that they get. So we don't say, here's £5 million, this is how you have to spend it. I think the regulator will. I think the regulator will say, here is money, but it comes with these strings attached, and you won't be able to spend it on players, and you won't be able to spend it on wages, and you won't be able to spend it here, and you won't be able to spend it there. I do. I think, well, the regulators sole purpose is to make football sustainable. And the only way you make it sustainable is if you curb spending where you can't afford to spend it. So if you stop spending on players and wages, you become more sustainable. Will the supporters like it? I don't think they will. Will the clubs like it? I don't think they will. But how else is the regulator going to make those clubs sustainable if they don't put some sort of measures on how they spend their money?
Would a regulator potentially have stopped you moving?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we obviously had to apply for permission to move, and we had to state our cases of why we moved. I mean, we moved less than a mile away within the same borough. So I think if we were Newcastle wanting to move to London, I think someone would have something to say about that. But when actually we were moving, there was a stadium there that was already built, was built for the Olympics. The Olympics was over. It could have become like all the other stadiums in the world that the Olympics have been to, with tumbleweed running through it. But now it's vibrant, it's full, it's exciting, it's a great place to be, it's easily accessible, and we've got 35,000 families, so it's a success story.
You're listening to Sunday Edition with myself, Sean Custis, and Henry Winter, where we're in the company of Baroness Karren Brady, and up next we'll be looking back at Karren's life in football. Karren, you started in this game. You were a single lady when you became a chief executive. You're now a grandma. You're still you're still a chief executive.
Yes.
An awful
decades later.
An awful lot of water passed under the bridge. I was watching Brady's Blues on Amazon Prime, and there you are. You popped up as the
very young.
The
I've seen it myself.
And it isn't about you, Brady's Blues.
No,
it is actually about Tom Brady.
Yes.
But it was interesting to see you there, and let's be honest, full of life, looking forward to the job. When you look back on that, can you believe everything that's happened in your football career?
Look, though it's a long time ago, but they were some of the best times of my life. I mean, it was such an exciting place to be. There was so much to do. I mean, there was such a different atmosphere. I mean, the sexism was horrific. The ageism was horrific, because obviously I was young and female and coming into football. I mean, I remember at my first press conference, I did this really serious presentation of all the things I was going to do with Birmingham City. And when I'd finished, I asked the press any questions. His little hand went up, and I said yes, and he said, "What are your vital statistics?" So no one was interested in my brain. They were only interested in my vital statistics. And I said to him, "Look, I know it's hard for you to think of a woman, and a young woman at that, coming here to run a football club." I said, "But trust me, when you come back in 10 years' time, I'm going to set the standards that others are going to follow."
Can you remember how you felt? Were you nervous? Yes, you were delivering the big lines and showing that you were here to stay and somebody who was going to make a mark on football. But was there a nervousness inside?
I think an excitement. You know, I was 23 years old, desperate to look at least 25. And I had really just positivity about what I could do, and excitement, and this energy that you have when you're that age to want to go and do things. It was a massive experience, a massive learning curve. I loved it. I had a wonderful time there. I've watched the series. I thought it was excellent. I think Tom Brady is a wonderful example of what an investor can bring in terms of his approach, his knowledge, his understanding of being a professional, being an athlete, what it takes to win. I do nothing. I want nothing but. I wish them nothing but the best.
You know the city of Birmingham.
Yes.
What's it going to be like when they move into that new stadium, whenever it is? Because it's quite a development plans they've got there.
Yes. I mean, look, building stadiums regenerates areas and creates jobs. It creates vibrancy. It creates destinations, places where people can come together. all cities that can should would be my advice. I think it'd be brilliant for the city.
But even when you went in there at the start, you probably looked around that stadium and thought, you know what, this needs a bit of redevelopment.
Well, it was all standing, almost all standing. I mean, two sides were all standing when we went, and we had to rebuild two of the sides. So yes, it's changed a lot.
And when you look at that documentary and you see Tom Brady going around, do you thinking, yep, I remember that, I know that, I realise that problem there, and like?
Well, look, it's a long time ago. You know, it's 15, 16 years since we were there. So a lot has changed. I remember certain parts of it. They've changed a lot of the internal makings. There's not things you instantly recognise. It's a bit like going back to your childhood home. You recognise the outside, but there's a lot inside that's changed from when you were there. But as I say, I enjoyed the programme. I wish them nothing but the best.
Karren, we were talking about your life at Birmingham City, and obviously you then moved to West Ham. What was the big differences between going from there to West Ham, which you probably think is a bigger club?
Well, yeah, it was definitely a bigger club. But a lot of the problems were the same. It was also almost in administration. It had also lost its way. It also had made some bad decisions. It needed sorting out. It needed some of the levers pulled. It needed a new stadium. All of the problems are pretty similar, but on a much bigger scale.
Did you ever feel that it has to be simply about results, or this whole West Ham, the academy, all that element is still important? You can't just have a sequence of 1-0 narrow wins. There has to be some element of flair.
Look, results are vital in football. It's all about the result. That's what we work all day, every day to achieve. But equally, what makes West Ham special is our never say die attitude, our belief in our community, a belief in our supporters, that togetherness that we have, that wanting to do well, that working man spirit. All of those things are really important to us. Our academy is vital to us. Our community is vital to us. I mean, if you think about how special West Ham is as a club, if you remember during COVID, myself and my players, we took a 30% pay rise to ensure nobody lost their job. No clubs did that. Pay cut, yeah. What did I say?
Pay rise.
Oh, I meant pay cut. Sorry.
You've been hanging around the Premier League too long.
I've been too long. Pay cut to ensure nobody lost their job. And that's something we all did voluntarily. And that makes us special. The fact that we all go into our communities, we care about what we do, we care about our integrity, how we've got the highest level of PLEDIS, which is the Premier League Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, because bringing your whole self to work and being who you are at West Ham is really important to us. So it is a special club.
Yeah, just on the community element, I remember talking to you during COVID and the things that you were doing and Mark Noble was doing, because people, we look at your stadium now, the Olympic Stadium, and you look at, as you say, the shopping malls and all the buildings that are going up. But actually, it's a fairly impoverished area, not far from your doorsteps. And the work that you've done there, Mark's done there, and your community operation is remarkable.
It's incredible. It's one of our greatest sources of pride. It's an award-winning project because it is so special and it changes people's lives. The football is everything we think about, but how we can use the football to care for other people, to change other people's lives, to bring communities together. The work that we do with our local NHS saves millions of pounds for the NHS through our campaigns that we do for anti-diabetes. The work our players do with reading with kids in schools, the fitness work that we do, the summer meals that we provide when kids are on school holidays who don't get a hot meal in our area. We're providing that food. The work that we do is groundbreaking and it's something we're so very proud of.
I'm not sure this is something we can really cover totally in 2 minutes, but you are seen as a bit of a pioneer for women in football, and it has changed a heck of a lot since you started off at Birmingham City, off the pitch, on the pitch. How proud of you, if you like, are you that you blazed a trail?
Well, everything I have done throughout my career has always been focused on helping other women achieve their goals and their aims. And a great source of pride for me is that 50% of my senior leaders at director level at West Ham are women. It was the same at Birmingham City. I opened a door for myself, and I have spent my career ensuring that door is held open as wide and as long as possible to get as many other women through as possible. And I use my position in the House of Lords to fight for equality, to fight for the gender pay gap, to fight for violence against women and girls. I use everything I can within my toolbox to make it easier for the next generation of women, not only coming into business, but carving out a career or just generally living their lives. It's really important to me.
Do you think now that we've got there, that women in football is established, if you like, and that everyone accepts it and nobody really draws a distinction?
Yes, I 100% agree with that. And that is through a change in mindset, women coming into the game, doing really well, being hugely successful and professional, and devoting their lives to their careers within football. I've got some in my own team who are a credit to my football club. So, yeah, I think that there's certainly if you think about it, the chair of the FA is a woman, the chair of the Premier League is a woman. So we've certainly come a long way since the 33 years or however many years it is since I joined football.
Karren, absolutely brilliant. It's been fantastic to have you on this morning. Learned a lot. I'm sure you're looking forward to West Ham v Chelsea on Friday night, which is live on talkSPORT, and wish you the best of luck for that.